What is up, guys? We're going to be answering the question, what is OS command injection? We're going to be making use of this lab, OS command injection simple case. The notes say this lab contains an OS command injection vulnerability in the product stock checker. The application executes a shell command containing user-supplied product and store IDs and returns the raw output from the command in its response. To solve the lab, execute the whoami command to determine the name of the current user. So from that lab description, we get a general feel for what OS command injection involves. It's the ability to execute an arbitrary shell command. In other words, we're not injecting into some type of web technology. We're not injecting into MySQL or JavaScript. We are injecting into the operating system itself with an OS level command. Now, the implications of this are anything that a user could type into the terminal as a command, we can also execute. Now, there could be some limitations. It really depends on which user we have access to, whether it's a root user or a regular user with limited permissions. Either way, if we have the ability to execute arbitrary commands from within the shell or terminal, that's clearly more privileges than we're supposed to have as a regular user of the website that's being hosted. Now, we're asked to run the whoami command. Why specifically the whoami command? A couple of reasons. Number one, it could be fairly useful to know which user account we have access to. But more importantly, it's just an indication that we have arbitrary access to the shell. If we can view the results of the whoami command, we can also view the results of any other shell command. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the lab. So we have our traffic proxying through Burp Suite, and we are going to start by adding this particular page to the scope. And we're also going to set the filters so that we can only see in-scope items. You can see there's two at the moment, so we'll just remove the other item from the scope. Now, we were given a clue that the vulnerability is specifically within inside a stock checker module. So if we click View Details on one of the items, we can see that at the bottom of the items page, we have a stock checker. So we can choose a store and we can click Check Stock. So if we do that, we'll see that we get a new request in Burp. We've filtered our requests by time, so we can just check out what the latest request was. And we can see we're sending a post request to product stock. And we can see we have a request body with our post parameters here. We have product ID equals 2 and store ID equals 2. Let's take a look at the response of that request. We get an integer 55, which is obviously the amount of this specific item that remains in stock. Now, we know from the lab notes that this specific HTTP post request is triggering a shell command to be executed on the server. And just as a general principle, we should not allow user input to result in a direct shell command. It's something that's very insecure. Let's take a moment to think about what might be happening on the server at this moment. So we know that there's some command being run in the shell. So let's just refer to that as stock. It might not be called stock, but it doesn't matter in this case. And presumably that specific command is taking two params. It's taking a product ID and it's taking a store ID. So this is what's being executed as a shell command on the server. Now, whether the server is running some kind of Linux-based operating system or if it's running Windows, there are certain characters we can use to chain together commands. For example, let's think about a few of them that work both on a Windows-based operating system and a Linux-based operating system. So we have, for example, the single ampersand. So this causes the first command to run in the background and the second command is going to be run simultaneously. We have double ampersand. So what this does is it causes the second command to execute if the first command was successful. We also have a pipe character. So this is going to pipe the result of one command into the next command. And we have a double pipe, which kind of functions as an OR statement. And if the first command fails, then the second command will be executed. We also have other characters that are specific to Linux. For example, we have the colon character, which is just simply a separator. And what's going to happen here is the second command is going to run regardless of whether the first command fails or not. So imagine we could make use of one of those characters. For example, let's take the pipe character here, and we could simply pipe the results of that first command to the second command. In other words, that second command is going to be executed. And this is the goal of the lab, to run that whoami command. So if we think about the two parameters that we want to pass to that stock command, well, we can keep the first parameter the same. Let's just keep these in double quotes so we can separate them. So that's param1. What would param2 be? Well, it would be 2 space pipe space whoami. So if instead of 2 plain integers as the parameters we pass in our post request, we could set parameter 1 to 2, and we could set parameter 2 to 2 pipe whoami, and there's a possibility we get that whoami command injected as a shell command to the server. Okay, so we have a concept in place. Let's see if we can execute that. So we're going to send this potentially vulnerable request to the repeater. Let's fire up the repeater. And over on the right hand side, we have our inspector and we have request body parameters. And we're going to manipulate the value of this second parameter, store ID. So remember, instead of 2, we're going to pass 2 pipe whoami. Now at the moment, it's going to send the URL encoded version of this. I don't think it's going to make a difference in this case. Let's apply changes. So we can now see that our parameters are product ID 2, store ID 2, pipe, which is URL encoded at the moment, whoami. So let's send that. And look at the results here. We get the results of the shell whoami command, and we can see the name of the user is Peter nanh30. Now, just to test it without URL encoding, let's set the value as a plain text to pipe whoami. Let's apply changes. So now we can see the plain text store ID parameter. Let's send that as well. And once again, we get the same results. So we have a successful proof of an OS command injection attack. If we head back to our lab, we can see we get the banner pop up. Congratulations, you solved the lab. Now, just in case you're wondering, there's no real reason why it has to be the pipe character. We just chose that arbitrarily. Let's try sending an ampersand instead. We'll choose apply changes. Let's send that. So we can see it fails there with the ampersand. Let's try URL encoding it. So ampersand whoami. Let's apply and send. So we have the URL encoded version. That actually works. And let's try the double ampersand. We'll URL encode that as well. Apply changes, send. That works fine as well. Double pipe character might not make sense because this is only going to execute if the first command fails. So yeah, we see we don't get the result there. So let's just go back to the plain text encoding. Let's try 2, double ampersand, whoami, apply changes, send to the back end. So you can see, depending on which of the connectors we use, whether it's an ampersand or a pipe, it may or may not work, and it may or may not need to be URL encoded in order to have results. So one takeaway here is, if you sense that there's a possibility for OS command injection, try a few of the different separators, because the first one might not work. But if you try a few and you experiment with URL encoding or not URL encoding, as you can see, you may sometimes get different results. Hopefully this was a helpful introduction to OS command injection. Thanks very much for watching.